could be the last day of work for thousands of care home staff because there is a deadline tomorrow that they should be fully vaccinated. One of those carers has spoken out over the controversial new rule. 60,000 staff could be without a job tomorrow.
In a video that's since gone viral, a care home worker, Louise Akester, made an emotional plea after she said she had no choice but to leave her job after declining the vaccine. And I'm pleased to say, after that emotional video, Louise joins us now. Good morning, Louise. You clearly care about the people that you looked after. It's a calling for you, it seems. How does it feel this morning not to be in work?
I feel lost. I don't know what to do with myself. It's, you know, I've done it for such a long time. I don't know what I'm going to do now.
Louise, the obvious question, of course, is what are your reasons for not being vaccinated?
I don't trust it yet. I think I'd rather wait until we've got long-term data and evidence coming back in. You know, I know it's gone through so many rigorous, you know, tests and such, but it is still classed as being in trials until 2023. And, you know, I know it was rushed through for emergency purposes, but I just don't feel that we know enough about it yet.
Okay.
I don't feel safe having it yet.
So you're a vaccine sceptic, I suppose, perhaps. Is that how you would describe yourself, or vaccine hesitant?
About this one, yeah. Not other vaccines, you know. I have had other vaccines.
Now, of course, that isn't an exemption, and we're not going to try and, you know, change your mind on that or argue with you about that. The point is, there are 60,000 people, it's estimated, in the same position as you are, for a multitude, presumably, of reasons, and some of them very similar. And the fact of the matter is that you have worked through the pandemic, haven't you? You have been looking after the most vulnerable of our society. How do you feel about the fact that introducing this rule means that you and 60,000 other people now lose your job?
I think it's absolutely disgusting the way they've treated us. You know, we was there right from the beginning when all of this came about. None of us knew what we was up against. We didn't know what we was facing. You know, everybody else was put in lockdown and everyone was all at home safe with their loved ones. And we were still having to go out and you know, face all of this. And it was petrifying. It really was scary. There was no vaccinations then. There was shortages of PPE, you know, and we still turned up and we still did our best.
Well, there's an irony, isn't there, that actually you were probably most vulnerable and you worked through that period. Now that we're emerging the other side, you lose your work because of this mandatory jab rule.
You know, Louise, like many people watching and listening, there's a huge amount of sympathy for you, to say the very least. I've got elderly grandparents, one who's very unwell at the moment, and but for their carers, you know, we couldn't function as a family. And whilst we were clapping the NHS, we forgot, I think, to do enough to celebrate the work that you did as carers. You know, you are underpaid and overworked. That's not a throat clearing, that's a fact. But at the same time, a lot of people at home will be thinking, just as I do, look, you're on the front line with the most vulnerable. There are, I think, something like, or there have been 4,000 million jabs already put into people's bodies. What's it going to take to persuade you? And if you can reduce that risk for a client, that's not a client, for somebody that you look after, which is a really deep relationship, much more in many instances than a nurse and a patient, why not just take the vaccine?
The way I see it is, yes, we do care for vulnerable people, but so do the people who work for the NHS and in the hospitals. So how is it that they've seem to have skipped the mandate past them? I know theirs is coming, but then they've skipped straight to the carers. I mean, the only reason we had so many deaths in care homes is because they was allowed out of the hospitals, infected with COVID, into the homes. That's how I caught COVID last year. And I think I still did everything in my power. I've had so many people saying, oh, I wouldn't want you near my grandparent being unvaxxed. You're not doing enough to protect them. But, I need to argue that fact. Yes, I was doing enough to protect them because, as soon as that PPE became available, we was wearing it all, following all the guidelines, all protocols for infection control. Before every single shift, you had to have your temperature taken. You had to do at least 3 lateral flow tests a week. Once weekly, you would do the PCR test. And I think, what more is it that people are going to expect? I don't see the point in this vaccination and what difference it's going to make, because you can still catch it and you can still spread it.
What impact do you think this will have on the care of, those residents that you were looking after, and more broadly? I mean, what is going to happen in our care homes if 60,000 people are doing their last day today?
So many have already started closing, haven't they? And it's going to cripple it. And if it carries on and goes right through the NHS, it's going to cripple them too. There's already such big shortages in the care sector. And, normally if you're short-staffed in care homes, you rely on agencies. But even they're struggling to get the staff because obviously, there's other people like myself who don't want this trial vaccination yet. We're not necessarily saying we're never going to have it, but none of us know enough about it long-term wise. And that is what is scaring a lot of people like me.
If Dr. Hillary was here, he would reassure you the vaccine has been through all the necessary trials. It's a safe vaccine. And, the majority of care staff and of NHS staff have been jabbed. We should say that. What are you going to do now? Because you obviously aren't going to take the vaccine. So what do you do? Because you're presumably having to leave the care sector altogether.
Yes. Well, I mean, I could stay in the care sector and do it in the community because it's not mandatory there yet. But then come the spring, I'm going to be in this exact same situation again. And it just seems absolutely bizarre. And what else is bizarre is, the care homes, the residents don't have to be vaccinated. The visitors don't have to be vaccinated. So for all I did my final shift on Friday, I can never enter that building again as an employee. But as a visitor, it's okay.
That's an odd situation to be in. All right, Louise Akester, thank you very much indeed for joining us. We just had a slight hiccup on the line.